Well, hi, everyone. Just connecting to everything right now. Uh-oh. Okay. All right. There we go. So hi, everyone. I am so excited. I'm here with Debi Robinson. She is like the queen of bone health, and I'm going to give you guys some time to pop in. I can't believe it's been a month since we've been here. So I hope everyone is doing well. Hi, I see you guys popping in on Instagram. Good to see you. How has everyone been? Debi, say hi.
Hi. Happy to be here. Can't wait to have our conversation, answer some questions, and share information about bones because we all have them. And it's really important that we pay attention to them.
Well, as people are joining in, I'll just kind of open the conversation with this. I get so many questions all the time about bone health, and primarily just as people are getting older and they're like, oh, well, now you have to go on all these medications because your bones are going to be crap. I was actually just interviewing Dr. Sandra Scheinbaum yesterday for my podcast, who's 74, right? And I was talking about ageism and how once you're over 50, you walk into the doctor and it's like, oh, crap. Like you're going down. Like that's it. Your bones are going to fail. You're going to need this. You're going to need that. We're going to throw you on a statin. We're going to throw you on osteoporosis medications, all these types of things. And how that is so not true, because there's so much we can do, not only for our bones, but also just to stay healthy and happy. I'm going to be 50 next year. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to walk in and be told that I'm an old lady.
Okay, well, I've got 10 years on you. I'll be 60 next year. And so what I see is those women that usually it's around age 60 that they're diagnosed with osteoporosis, the disease state of bone loss. And it's true. And they didn't realize that was happening. So I think that that's a big thing for me, is to raise awareness to the fact that in the background, like you said, you show up at 50. I think it's important for us to understand that there are leaks or degenerative qualities of what's happening inside. Like we see it outside, right? We see that wrinkles are developing outside. Skin might not be as tight as it was. I think for me, when I was 40, Trisha, is when I first started noticing lines on my lips. So I think I started to notice like aging, if we're going to call it that, when I was 40, which is 20 years ago. And so what's happening inside, the wrinkles inside, what they show up on labs. So then you're, in the doctor's office and now it's this. And what do we do here in the West? Here's the pill for that. Here's the pill for that. And what about those of us that don't want to take the pills?
Yeah. Well, exactly. Hey, guys, do me a favor on Instagram and Facebook. Can someone post a comment so I can make sure I see your comments? Because if you're going to start asking questions, I got to be able to see the questions, and I forgot to check the tech. Okay. So do that for me. All right. Give me a, hey, yo, what's up? Something like that. Okay. I see you guys joining on Instagram, but I don't necessarily see any comments. So if you could just test my tech, I'd really appreciate it. Anyone out there on YouTube and Facebook today? All right, anyway, but I agree with you. A nice topic. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. We got a nice topic. All right, we're working. And while we're waiting for questions, Debi and I are just chatting. So if you have a question about bone health, you have a question for me that you've been hanging on to for a month, go ahead and start putting those questions in. First come, first serve. Just throw them on out there and we'll start answering them. But yeah, Debi, I think it's an important point about all this starts well before we're even told about it. And the things that we can do. I started doing Pilates years ago for bone health. That was like I was like, okay, I got to start making sure that I'm working on strengthening the tendons, the muscles, the bones, and walking. And obviously I dance, right? Which might break a bone someday, but so what are some things that a 30-year-old should be doing for their bone health? Because it's probably not on their radar.
Right. And you know what? Bone loss starts in your 30s. And that's the thing. So think of your bones like a bank. And this is where we store our minerals. And the bones are actually one of the first organ systems to react to stress. So that stress response, the bones, the bank of your minerals, your reserves, they're going to dissolve to release the minerals the body needs to run the show. So here's what I would say. If in the 30s, this is why we don't see the football players, that could really those high intense sports that have a lot of physical body demands. This is why we don't see professional athletes. They age out at around in their 30s, right? We talk about quarterbacks like, wow, he's getting closer to 40. Can he still do it? The ones that can still do it are the ones that actually optimize lifestyle, right? Tom Brady, the Green Bay Packer guy, they optimize, like we see their lives and their lifestyles and what they're doing. So here's what I would say, not to be fear-based, but rather raise awareness. The degenerative things that happen in our body start to happen in our 30s and entering our 40s. They don't have to happen, and they don't have to happen in an accelerated rate. So raising awareness that in the background, the bank, the reserves that are going to get you to 80, happy, healthy, strong, that you have the opportunity to realize that the lifestyle habits, optimizing sleep, managing stress, you do all the adrenal work, raising awareness to the fact that the faucets of leaking are happening inside that you can't see, and just to be raising awareness to optimize lifestyle so that you keep those internal reserves in your body, in your bones, so that you come to age 80 and you're going to go to Spain for a month, or you're going to go hike the Camino de Santiago because you still can.
Yeah, I'm going to ride Space Mountain when I'm 95. I've just decided. That's like my goal.
Wait, you mean Space Mountain as in Disneyland?
With my grandkids. I'm going to walk Disneyland and I'm going to ride it. Like, I don't want to, that sign on the wall that says when you're old, you can't ride this. Not going to happen with me. I want to still be able to ride roller coasters with my great grandchildren when I'm in my 90s. That is my goal. Anyone else? Anyone else a Disney freak? I love Disney. I would go to Disney all the time. I love it. I want to go back. I was just there last year and I'm like, let's go. Yeah, I think that's great advice, because I think when we're in our 30s, at least for me, I was just busy doing all the things like trying to raise the kids, trying to build a career, trying to, whatever you're doing, buy houses, change jobs, go whatever. You have all these things going on that the last thing you think about is how am I going to take care of me? That's like the 30s were so busy for me. Anyone else out there relating? You guys are so quiet today. Anyone else? What do you guys have questions about bone health? And do you feel like, are any of you in your 20s and 30s and you feel like you haven't really thought about it yet, right? You're not really thinking about it. Do you have a question about that, the cortisone shot? Because I'm sure I can throw that at Debi. I have a comment here. Cortisone shot impacted my shoulder movement, not able to fix. There's a lot, I don't know if you want to speak to this. I mean, there's a lot of effect on bones from cortisone, right?
Yeah.
And there's like this multi-level where you get injured and you're like, okay, I can't exercise, I'm in pain. And then they give cortisone and that kind of perpetuates the bone loss situation. Feel free to talk about that. I'm seeing if there's a direct question from Max there. You want to talk about that?
Here's what I'd love to address. Can't fix. Like she said the word she can't fix, right?
I think it's Max. I think his name is Max.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's not true. It's not we can't fix. Now, there are some tears and some high level tears that maybe can't repair, but it really depends on the age of the person as well. Who's the quarterback from the Green Bay Packers? He created his own documentary, 3 episodes. Now he tore, I want to say, his Achilles on the first game of the season last year. And he's around the age 40, which is, a time when the body isn't repairing at the rate that it does at 20, right? And he went on this crazy journey of healing quicker than almost anybody ever has with that injury. So I that word can't repair, I want to take that off the table. Our cells are replicating all day, every day. They say potentially every 7 to 10 years, we have a new cell in every single area. So some of those tears, especially the shoulders, the rotator cuff is only 4 tendons that attach on to keep that arm there. What I would say is to focus on posture to strengthen the upper back and to strengthen all the support muscles of the shoulder. Yes, if you're in acute pain, getting a shot, I have a hip replacement. I had a hip replacement at 51, Trisha. This is why I do what I do, because when I was in my 40s, I didn't think about my bones until my hip joint had a tear in it. I tore my labrum. And so when my hip joint was torn and all of a sudden I had to think about my bones, and then I had a surgery that collapsed my hip. And now I'm like, oh my God, is the top of my leg gonna snap off. But what I would say is that this is like 16 years later for me. I do crazy stuff. I do crazy stuff on that hip of mine.
Yeah.
I travel all over the world on that hip of mine. So there isn't something about can't repair. And when it comes to the shoulder, you've got to strengthen the upper back muscles and the whole entire support structure. And you've also got to pay attention to when your shoulders are forward. So, texting, computering, all the forward movements. So I would say that there is no can't fix, and it can be done without a shot. So, yeah.
And I want to also put in there, the adrenal side of me says, when we tell ourselves we can't get fixed, we won't. The words that we use to our body matter. If any of you have gone over to see my new YouTube channel, I have a new YouTube channel. It's called What Am I Modeling? And I interview every single week people that I had one the other day that she was on like 10 medications, had 5 autoimmune disorders, was told she would never get off medication, she would never feel better, and she did. I have people that were told they, would never have a baby, that was impossible, and they did. And there was one common theme between all of these people, and it was a mindset shift where they didn't take can't anymore. They said, nope, my body is amazing. I'm going to support my body. I'm going to be in the moment. I'm going to trust it. And I'm going to give it what it needs to do its job, every single one of them. So if you need some inspirational stories and you want a little bit more on the mindset, I haven't spoken about my new channel much, but I mention it here. It's called What Am I Modeling? It's in my link in bio. Check it out. I have one actually going live right after this at 10 o'clock Pacific time on YouTube with Kelly Kennedy, the Lymph Queen. And we talk a ton about this. We talk a ton about what you say. So I agree. Everything can be fixed. Now, sometimes we have in our head this idea of what it's supposed to be. Like, what does fix mean to us? Sometimes you have to surrender to the idea that it might be different, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. So yes. Did that help you out, Max? I have a thank you both from Max. So I'm hoping that did give some good suggestions. Finally seeing a comment over there on Facebook. How you doing, Jim? Good to see you. Go ahead and throw the questions out, guys, because we're caught up. Otherwise, we're going to play with the dog or something. Piggy is here, everyone.
Oh, Piggy. Okay, one thing I want to say, Tricia, so I don't know if these are both men that are here. I interviewed a man on this, he works with men with osteoporosis. And, osteoporosis is the number one disease in menopause. It's 55% of the people over age 50 have bone density loss. And actually, we're going to see that increase because the work you do with stress is one of the biggest bone dissolvers. And so we have to manage that. But for men too, it used to be around age 70. We didn't really test men, but I think they're going to start testing them a little earlier. And so for men, this is something to raise awareness to as well. Again, not with a total fear-based mindset, like, oh gosh, my bones are dissolving, but just that raised awareness piece. Another thing to pay attention to is, what are we doing lifestyle based? This is how we think, how we eat, and how we move every day. Are we optimizing them in order to manage the wrinkles on the inside?
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't recommend DEXA scans for men, do they?
No. And, men typically don't lose their testosterone until age 70. For women,
I disagree with that. Yes, they do.
But that's what they think, that men don't lose their testosterone until age 70. But the work you do, when you start to do labs, functional labs, and look at testosterone levels with all of the toxins that are in our air that we're exposed to, if you have clogged detoxification pathways and you're not clearing, that's all going to have an effect, that accelerated stress response. And stress, not just, am I stressed out, but even if you have a musculoskeletal injury, that's an internal stressor. Right?
Well, internal stressors are medications, nutritional deficiencies, toxins, troubled detoxification, internal injuries of inflammation, gut issues. Like microbiome changes. Internal stress is anything where the body is not running perfectly and to plan, right? And most of us have some sort of internal stress, and then that's perpetuated by the external stress that we deal with. So what we have control over we have control over a lot of it, actually. We have control over how we interpret that external stress to not worsen the internal stress. But you're right. We got to work with physicians. We got to figure out what are the internal stressors. And I find lower testosterone levels in men even more commonly in their 30s and 40s now. And it's not that they can't make it. I want to be clear. It's that their body is diverting to cortisol instead and storing as estrogen. It's not that they don't have the propensity to make it. So then most doctors just put them on testosterone. And then we wonder why they develop prostate enlargement or why they're more stressed out. Now they have anxiety, right? It's an interplay between testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, and all of this has an impact on your bone health because it has an impact on your minerals. It has an impact on magnesium. Isn't magnesium like the #1 deficiency in the United States?
Probably. Yeah.
And on that, I'm going to throw this question at you because magnesium plays a role in this. So I'm going to let you answer this one. The question is calcium in our diet very important to have for healthy bones?
Okay, so I love to talk about calcium.
Me too.
RDA, so this RDA that was figured out in the 50s, monitoring a very undernourished population. And we came up with this number. After age 50, you need 1,200 milligrams. Here's the thing, calcium makes bones and teeth. It's a very hard mineral. 98 to 99% of it is in our bones, and that's where it should be. But if there is that internal stressor, calcium is nature's Band-Aid. It's going to come to lay down scar tissue if you have a tear in a joint. If you're posturally malaligned and your bones are off alignment, it's going to come and lay down more surface area. It's what makes up arthritis. It's protective and we need it. But if that calcium is not in our bones, then it'll be in our soft tissue. It will be in our blood vessels. It'll be around our heart. We don't want that. So in the UK, they recommend 700 to 800 milligrams a day. We do 1,200. So if you're going to go down to the 700 or 800 mark, which we should, and some of the studies that have been done where they take calcium supplementation, they have a placebo group that they gave nothing to, and a supplement group that they gave supplements to. There are more heart attacks in the supplement group than in the placebo group. So we don't want our bones and teeth floating around in the system. So I say that we need 700 to 800 milligrams of calcium. Can you get it from your food? Yes, you can.
Absolutely. We're not deficient. Our country is not deficient in calcium. We have plenty.
Yeah. Trisha, black olives. One serving of black olives has 20 milligrams of calcium. Now, that's a small percentage getting to the 700, but there's so many foods that have more. Basil seeds have half of the daily need in 2 tablespoons. It's everywhere. When you start to actually look at milligrams of calcium, even a bag of dark leafy greens has maybe 80 milligrams or 60 milligrams of calcium. Well, that's almost 10%. So if you start to look, it's a structural mineral and it's everywhere because nature knows that our bones and teeth need it. So it is in all of our foods. And then you have to think about, there's 4 musketeers of bone health. So you need calcium. So you need that calcium to come in. Well, you need vitamin D to help it get absorbed. So now you need optimal vitamin D, which is going to be a lifestyle factor as well, right? Are you exposed to sun, your torso, front, back, arms, and legs? So do you have optimal vitamin D? Get your serum levels checked and then supplement if you need. And then we have magnesium. Magnesium puts calcium into the solution in order for it to be delivered to the bones. Vitamin K, vitamin K2, delivers the calcium to the bones. So those are the 4 synergistic bone 4 musketeers that we need. And they're in food. And if you need, you can bring in some supplements to help.
And what's crazy is in nature, these are all balanced. So if you pull in green leafy green, nuts, seeds, vegetables, there's some calcium, there's some magnesium, there's some vitamin K, these things are all naturally balanced. And one of the things that I see, to go to your calcium point, is the doctors say, well, take calcium because you have osteoporosis. And I go, wait a minute. Whoa, hold up. Number one, we are not deficient in calcium. I mean, for the most part, we get it in our food. It's fortified and everything. That is not an issue, but we are deficient in magnesium when we're under stress. It's the #1. I mean, magnesium just goes right down the minute you're in stress, and you need it. Like you said, vitamin D, when your body's stressed, it's not going to convert it well, even from sun exposure. It sits in vitamin D2 for a while and doesn't convert into D3. Huge deficiency issue. Same amount of sun we've always had, right? If not more. Yet we're getting more and more deficient. Why? Right? Stress. I agree with you. And hey, and also strontium, manganese, like all the small minerals too, I presume, as you know, part of the building bones of the matrix. So
they're the cofactors, and strontium is not part of the physiology of bones, although it will take up a parking spot. So it will displace calcium, and we don't know if it actually plays a physiological role, but we know that calcium does. So I don't recommend strontium supplementation. I don't recommend strontium. I don't recommend calcium. Now I run labs. So I do a hair mineral test, and if I see someone's low in their calcium there, I'll recommend calcium. I do recommend calcium foods. And like you said, when we eat something in a food form, it's got the fiber, the water, the digestive enzyme support. It's got the cofactors that are going to help it. So that's where we get it. Fortified foods, I stay away from them because what are fortified foods? Cheap supplements.
But that's the standard American diet. So the reason I bring that up is the people go to their physician on the standard American diet, and then they give them calcium. I'm like, dude, you're already taking supplementation of calcium, right? Because they're eating crap all the time. There's a couple questions here. Is it okay to take a vitamin D and K supplement combined?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. You say yes. Thoughts on Fortibone collagen? Let's talk collagen and bone health.
Okay, but just one thing about the vitamin D and K comment, fat soluble vitamins, you need your body to be in a really good digestive state. I run stool labs, so my healthy gut, healthy bones. I'm so about the health of your gut for your bone health. And you need to be digesting your minerals, right? You have to have optimal digestion and fat metabolism. It's better to take them with a higher fat type meal where your body's in that place. Now, when it comes to collagen, so I think there are some studies that show that it's beneficial for bone. I personally don't take collagen. And the reason why, so I haven't had cow since 1986. I gave up eating red meat in 1986. Typically where we get our collagen is from the tendons of cows. Like if you look at, I saw this one Instagram image that was so powerful for me. It was about like gummy, chewy candies that use cow tendons. And in collagen's the same way. So you have piles of these white tendons and connective tissue from creatures that they're turning these powders into. Well, that just grosses me out. So I personally don't take collagen. I do know that there's some research that supports it's beneficial. And I interview a lot of physicians on my podcast that do recommend that. So I don't take it, but for somebody who wants to take it, I know that there's companies out there, you put it in your coffee in the morning. What I have started taking though, Trisha, is creatine because, JJ has her product and I started taking it and I am noticing my nails are so strong. And then, it's supposed to really help with muscles. And when it comes to bone health, by the way, the number one thing to focus on physically, musculoskeletally, is getting stronger with your muscles. Increasing.
I think in general, we need to think about getting stronger, regardless of every part of our body, y'all. Like I said, I just interviewed a 74-year-old yesterday on my YouTube show, and she didn't even start lifting until she was close to her 70s because she just was all in the cardio mode. Let's lose weight. Let's get as thin as we can. And then all of a sudden was like, uh-oh, I got to be able to climb, do things that I want to do. We all need to be looking at muscles, muscle tone, muscle building, for bone health, for energy, for optimal weight I can't say get younger. I have to say get older. I don't like it.
Well, wait a minute. You know what? So I interviewed this guy from South Africa and he goes, yeah, I work with women that are getting on in life. And I thought, I'm going to use that. And when I speak with people, I say, all right, so how young are you?
Yeah, me too.
And they're like, wow.
Because we are. I just, I keep thinking of when I was younger and I used to watch the Golden Girls and they all had the gray hair and they were old. Well, they were like 50. Like they were in their 50s or something when they were doing that. And I'm like, okay, like I'm going to be 50 next year. Like I look at 50-year-olds now and I'm like, we're young, man. We could have 40, 50 more years if we're taking care of ourselves. Like this is a true midlife. It's not end of life.
Yeah.
Although we never know on the stress angle, today could be my last day on earth. I would never know. I have no control over that. There's no point worrying about it. And how am I going to use today? But we potentially have a very long time. So enjoy it, right?
my dad will be 96 in June. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm picking the 100 mark. I have 40 more years. That 41 actually. Okay. That is such a long time. That's like so many years. And I think, and that's what I do when I work with women, I say, think about the number 100 and how many more years you have. And so when you start to think 20, 30 more years, that's when you say, uh-oh, I better make some of those positive shifts in my life that are going to be getting me. And you said something I thought was really interesting. So I personally don't want to ride Space Mountain. I was in Orlando at Disney World, and I went on some kind of Aerosmith kind of ride, and oh my God. No, it was in the dark, and it took us. And so you're in the dark, you don't know what the heck's coming, and it was loop-de-loo and this thing.
Oh. Well, that's a little bit different. Like the X2 is Six Flags. I can't do that anymore. When I was younger, I did, but the ones where they flip you around a lot, I can't. My head doesn't handle. But Space Mountain, oh, that's fun.
Okay, well, yeah, Space Mountain is more like fast. I probably could do that one, but this thing here, oh my. But anyway, I think if you think about how many more years you have to live, then you think more about showing up and preserving. Yeah. And especially if you have a goal, and you brought that up, and that's how I start. That's like my first part of any work that I do is why? Why are you doing this? What is it? Like for you, you want to be with your grandkids on Space Mountain. Mm-hmm. For me, I want to keep traveling and travel my whole life. And more than that, I guess, because I have a hip replacement, I had it when I was 51 and my body was broken. My hip joint collapsed at 50. I gained so much weight. I couldn't move. I had a handicap sticker. Like I feel like my body broke and I felt broken, and I know what that's like. And then as I'm a yoga therapist, I teach 5 live classes a week. So I see bodies that are getting on in age. I see the hip issues, the shoulder issues, and all these things that can happen if you don't pay attention. Mm-hmm. And so I know how important it is to show up every day, to do something. Like I don't actually lift weights. I'm going to do this with yoga and do the weight bearing with yoga. So it's, or whatever, going in the beach, doing push-ups when I'm walking against the bench, or doing dips for my triceps, but it is an everyday, how am I moving? How am I thinking? And what am I eating?
And what does my future self want me to do now is another thing to think about. Because when I look at myself now and I say, oh, if I could go back to when I was 25, what would I tell myself, right? So I try to live by saying, when I'm making choices, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Do whatever. I think, what am I going to say to myself 20 years from now? Am I going to wish that I started that new dance class? Am I going to, wish that I took that vacation with my kids? Like, I don't want to regret, right? And your future health is exactly that. Every time you're like, oh man, I could do a push-up, but you know what? I'd rather just watch TV. Well, what would your future self say to you? Would it say, you know what? Watch TV while you do the push-up. Just do a little, just a little. It would help me out a lot. Just,
there's something so cool about what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So, we all say like, oh my gosh, I wish that, would you want to be 20 again? Look like you were at 20, have all that vibrancy at 20 or 25, whatever. And it's like, yeah, to have that kind of, but then we go into the wisdom part of us. And I'm like, God, what I know now, like, do I really want to go? Because then you think about that. But if you do what you just did, where you say, what would my 7-year-old self want? You're actually now taking that opportunity in this moment with the wisdom of what you're going to acquire at 70, right? Because at 49 right now, for you, you have so much more wisdom than you had when you were 30, when you were in your 20s, right?
In the last 5 years, it's been a complete game changer. The 40s have been incredible for that. I can't wait to be 50. I mean, I'm on, bring it on.
I feel the same way. I'm going to be 60. It's like, okay, whatever. I'm going to be 60. Like, I feel better now than I did when I was 40. I really do. I feel better because I'm optimizing my internal environment. I am showing up every day with that awareness. And so I just love that if you think about your future self, you're coming at it with a future self, intelligent mind to then tell yourself currently, Yeah. And so I guess that's the thing, I want to raise so much awareness about bone health because like I said, I broke at 50. I see bodies degenerating in all the years that I've taught yoga to those getting on in age. And so I just want to raise the awareness to pay attention, but not in a fear-based place, not in a, oh my God, you're going to get off your throat.
It's love from your future self to protect you now. Like this is coming from love and gratitude for your body that most of us don't pay attention to. We beat ourselves up. We don't fit in our pants. We're ugly. We don't have this. What can we do to change it? Well, instead of looking at, you got up and you walked this morning, you went to the bathroom by yourself, you got in your car, you were able to go to the grocery store, you were able to feed yourself. A lot of people can't do that.
Yeah, I see them.
Remember.
I see them. You see them. We see the people that get to the place where they can't do things. And there was a point for me where some of that got lost as well.
Yeah.
So really, really amazing. And you just said something right now. I'm trying to think about what it was you said that kind of triggered something inside of me.
It's always worse, right? When my mom was dying of cancer, she couldn't walk to the bathroom. I mean, literally, physically could not. Even using her walker, she could barely hold herself up on a walker. And how many times a day do you go to the bathroom and you don't think anything of it? But then you look in the mirror and beat yourself up for having a wrinkle or for being injured or for your hair turning gray or whatever it is that we worry about. And we forget that we actually woke up today. My dad woke up, went downstairs. He's 59 years old, goes downstairs, gets something out of the fridge and falls to the ground with a stroke. That was it. He was in a coma and we had to pull the plug. He didn't wake up that day knowing it was his last day, right? He just went down to have breakfast, right? And how often do we wake up every morning, go downstairs and have breakfast? We don't sit there and say, wow, we're really grateful that we woke up today and we can have breakfast. Instead, we're like, oh, what are all the things we have to do today? Oh, so-and-so's annoying me. Oh, we go off on all these things when we should be taking just a moment, everyone, just a moment, just maybe 10 minutes in the morning to say, wow, what a beautiful day. I am so happy to be here. I think that changes your bone health in so many different ways because it reduces the stress chemicals. And before I hand it over to you, we have a few minutes left, guys, for questions. So if you have them, put them down. I do see one over on YouTube. We'll come to that in a second, but this is your last chance to throw them down. So make sure you throw them down. Go ahead. Yeah. So, like bone health and stress chemicals, right?
Yeah. What I think what it was that I wanted to say is this. The women that were born in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, there was so much emphasis on being skinny and being thin. And you as a supermodel, that's your big thing, right? Because you even had more pressure on that. But that pressure existed. We went into the 80s in the fat-free world. So we started eating more sugar and things, but taking fat out, which is ridiculous.
And sorbitol. We were doing these crappy alternate sugar junk too, aspartame and all that too, sugar-free, fat-free, right?
Right. And so what happened is we starved our bones. So if you have the maximum time to build up your bone bank when you're in your 30s, when you're in your 40s. So the message is build up your bone bank, maximize your bone bank, your reserves, so that when you get and manage all the things that are dissolving bones. So where bones are building, dissolving. So build up your bone bank where you're loading into your body, where you're watching TV and doing those push-ups, because you are going to be building up that bone bank. But also pay attention, like you said, what matters? I mean, does it matter, like this whole thing about thinness and being skinny? Because women have been starving their bodies. Like I just gained a little bit of weight. I'm like, okay, that's extra weight for my bones to cart around, which means they're going to be stronger. So do I love being a little bit heavier? No. But do I love that my bones now have to manage that extra 5 or 6 pounds? Yeah, because they're going to get stronger in response to that. So it's just a mindset. It's an awareness. It's how you look at this. It's all of that.
And what you're putting in your body. You're living a healthy lifestyle. And I mean, I'm heavier than I was obviously when I was modeling by like 25 pounds. Wow. But I know, hard to imagine, right? You guys can't see me.
Imagine you were 25 pounds less.
Me in person, so she knows I'm like a string bean. But I have a lot more muscle now, right? And so even being tiny. I mean, I actually got some, I got some guns in here somewhere and they're coming along, right? So, it has put weight on, and that was hard for me being in the modeling industry. That was really, 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 really hard for me. When I got pregnant, it was very hard for me. After having a baby, very hard for me. And it wasn't until my 40s that I started to say, wow, I had 2 babies. Like, I'm kick-ass. Like, look at me, man. I did it naturally. How amazing. Like, how empowering is that? Like, so what if I'm not exactly like I was before? I'm better. And I think it does. It's a lot of mindset shifts. There was a question about a bone cure in a process in a cast. I think they're asking, like, maybe what do the bones do when they're in a cast? Like, they're not in a cast for very long. So I'm not sure what the question is. I don't know how you would interpret that one. It says, can you see that one? How do bone cure in a process in a cast?
No, I can't see it. But so yeah, there might be a time in life where your body has to go through, if you're in a cast, there might be a time where you're going into a place of degeneration, more bone loss than bone building, because the muscles are atrophying, the bone is atrophying. So what do? Have more bone broth if you eat animals. Bone broth, make sure you're optimizing nutrition. Really, you have to support digestion and gut health. You have to make sure that you're digesting, absorbing the nutrients. It's not just about eating them. So managing your stress, and in that time realize, okay, I'm in a cast, my bones are healing, or my whatever it is that's healing. This is going to be a 2-month off journey. And then I'm going to get right back on that horse when that cast comes off, slowly and surely, not jumping in so you injure yourself. Because that's another thing, like in the bone health space now, there's so much talk about heavy lifting for bone health. And I don't agree with the heavy lifting unless you are being supervised by a very knowledgeable person. I have a hip replacement because a guy tore my hip, because a yoga teacher pushed my body when I was 44 and it tore my labrum. I felt the pop happening. So you have to have a very skilled person watching you. And guess what? That's going to cost a lot of money. So if you have somebody that is a very skilled, because yeah, I mean, you have, if someone's going to stay one-on-one with you and they know their stuff and have been doing this for a lot of years, it's going to be a higher price person than a $50 an hour trainer or $25 or whatever. So whatever it is you do, make sure it's safe and strong.
Yeah, and use your body's intuition. So yes, we don't have any other questions, but I know we're wrapping up. Tell people, Debi, how to find you. And then I have a few announcements before we log off. So don't go anywhere until I make those announcements. Okay. Debi, where can they follow you and learn more about bone health? You've been so incredibly valuable. And if you guys liked this, please give me some feedback. Yes, she's awesome. I don't see hearts and thumbs ups anymore on this new platform, which sucks because normally they're really good about giving hearts and I can't see them. So give me some stuff in the comments if you like it. While Debi tells us, where can they find you, my dear?
So Stronger Bones Lifestyle is the name of my podcast, and that's one place. And then my name, Debi Robinson, Debi Robinson. I have a website, and that's what it's called, Debi Robinson. So on there is all the other information.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I have loved having you here today. Thank you. I have no doubt this has been so valuable. And I think, as we talk about all these different areas of our body, in the conventional side, we tend to just talk about them independently. And we have talked a lot about how everything goes together: mindset, stress, hormones, minerals, digestion, all of these things and how they all play a role in bone health. And I hope that's given the message that we are holistic beings. We are not individual parts stuck together with glue. We are all one being. And so we need to look at it holistically. And by doing that, there are a lot of solutions out there. We also talked about not saying can't. My body can't. It won't. Yes, it will. It will indeed. Little announcement. I do have on my YouTube channel, one of my modeling, link is in the bio, have an episode going live in 5 minutes with Kelly Kennedy, Lymph Queen. So make sure you check that out. Please subscribe. You guys have been awesome about the comments over there. I will have another guest next month for the live here. And once again, you guys are awesome. Thanks for taking time out of your day to sit here with me. Like, truly, I never would have imagined that people would actually want to show up and listen to what I have to say, or that my guests would have to say. So you guys are the reason I keep showing up here. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. And yeah, and Debi, anything to sign off, and then we're out.
No, just thank you. Thank you for having me. And hopefully the message is, like you said, we're not just pieces, we're one whole being. Well, your skeleton is what's holding you up for us to see you. So just be aware of it. Do something every day, push up, stand on one leg, do something that you're focusing on getting stronger.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next time.